You're listening to Mondays Unfiltered, the podcast for anyone who's accepted that work is inevitably work. We're your hosts, Heather and Kristin. We break down burnout, baffling policies, and corporate chaos with dry humor and real solutions. Grab your coffee and whatever optimism survived the weekend, Mondays have begun. A little about us. Chris spent decades helping executives shape brands and craft messages that inspire, and I built systems that actually made those visions work behind the scenes and kept people from falling apart in the process. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay.
You're very low. I only see you from here.
There I am.
Okay, there you are.
I was playing around. I was trying to look at my resources. I need to get my other screen going. So, how are you today?
I am great. Yes, I am. I'm having a good day today. I had some good conference calls. I had some planning that took place. It's a good Monday.
Good. How's the weather in Chi-Town area?
It's winter. Yeah. I mean, it's in the high 20s and there was some flurries, but we don't have 14 inches of snow like the East Coast does, so we're doing okay.
We had a really snowy winter last year. It is 58 degrees and really sunny.
I know. I have a friend that's up in the Northwest mountains, and every time I talk to her, I'm like, "You got snow?" And she's like, "Nope, all grass."
Yeah, the ski resorts are really suffering. So, well, it was interesting because you and we were recently talking about meetings and how they are productivity destroyers. And we also wanted to talk about distractions. So aside from meetings, we were talking about what else can distract you to, cut into your productivity. And both you and I think, are ADD, right? ADD, ADHD.
Yeah.
I think we're ADD.
And I'm also a people pleaser. So
Oh, so
I'm
am
not going to
I.
be one to shoo you away. I will sit and talk to you for 2 hours because it would make me feel bad to tell you to go away, that I'm busy.
I hope, well, we're older now, so hopefully we've learned,
I'm getting better at
you're
it,
getting better at it.
but I still am. I wouldn't be one, like, there were times where they would tell us when someone knocked, like we had cubicles that were 3/4 of the way, like you had just enough to walk through, and they would knock on the glass and you'd be like, "Yeah, and are you available?" Yeah, come on in. And they would ask us to say, "No, send me an email and we'll schedule a time." And I'm like, "Oh, I cannot do that to somebody."
Well, I have an issue with, like, oh, we'll schedule a time, because sometimes you can just pop if you have a answer to a
It
question,
depends on
because
how detailed is the situation.
we've had to learn focusing. Speaking of focus, today's quote is very short. It's focus, and it's from
Focus.
Focus. That's from Karate Kid. Mr. Miyagi was like, focus. So
There's a comedian who started on TikTok a couple of, in COVID. She's from my area, and whenever she's in town and doing a show, I go and see her, and her name is Pinky Patel. And she does this
sounds like a
impersonation.
character, like from TV.
Yeah, she's awesome. So, I can't remember. She might have been an accountant prior, but she created this persona where she was a mix of like her mom and her grandmother, and she she had her hair goes up in a big bun, and her big thing is lipstick, and she'll get off on a tangent, and her big thing was okay, pocus. And so she has Indian descent, and so she would do this bit where she would be like, "Oh, get back to what we're trying to do." And so I think of that all the time. I'm like, "Okay, focus."
Focus. Well, it's hard. I mean, I think it's a little easier now, like with people working remotely. Um, there's a lot of talk, and we're not talking about remote work today. I think we will talk about it at some point.
Eventually,
There
yeah.
is a lot of talk about companies requiring people to come back into the office, and the trend that's going to happen. But I remember it is hard to focus. And aside from meeting distractions, it's, people coming by your cube and just having a casual conversation, or, oh my gosh, somebody needs something, their hair's on fire, and their priority just became, an emergency,
Hmm.
and they need you to do XYZ. Usually it was a boss that did that.
Hmm.
And so you were pulled off your task. And so I have a little, like we do all the time, I have little statistics. 93.6% of lost productivity is due to distractions. And then one of the things is my pet peeve. We talked about tools already, Heather. 59 people typically are spending 59 minutes a day looking for information and tools.
Like trying to identify a resource or something, like going
Yes.
through like searching in the history or because there's so many places it could be.
Right. And so I think we talked about it recently. We talked about having too many tools,
Hmm.
and being able to reduce it, but people actually looking for things. Um, one of my pet peeves about productivity killers is, and I don't know if this you tell me if this suits this, but I
Okay.
think it
Okay.
is somebody that had a deliverable to you that didn't give it to you.
Oh yeah.
And you
Yeah.
had an agreed
Yeah.
upon
Why
time.
didn't you give this to me a week ago when it came in? Why did you wait a week later when the due date is tomorrow to process this proposal? That happened a million times. A
So
million.
that's a productivity killer,
Right.
but is it a distraction? Because now
It
you can't
is,
finish your
well,
work.
that's where you have to reprioritize. So it's a distraction in the way of what you had planned on working on now takes a back seat because this takes priority. So you have to learn how to reprioritize. But my husband and I are very sarcastic people. I was raised in a very sarcastic home. And one of the things that I think I had it on my desk at one point when I was pissed off one day, but he had it in his shop and he had it hanging on the wall and it said, "Lack of preparation on your part does not cause for emergency on mine."
I That is one of my favorite. Piss poor planning is, one of my favorite things. Um, what I hated when we first got into the instant messaging thing, and then now it's Teams or Slack or whatever, was somebody constantly pinging me.
Yeah, that's
And
distracting.
that
Shiny
is
object
very
syndrome.
distracting.
Because again, from a people pleaser standpoint, I want to immediately answer you. And it it's actually a struggle for me when I hear my phone buzz to not go get the phone. It's, Pavlov's dog. We've been trained by these machines that we answer them as soon as they go off, and that's not how it has to be. You have to control yourself.
You do. You have to learn to block and tackle. And that's like the best thing I learned, in sales, because in sales you have to prospect, you have existing deals that you're working on. I mean, everybody doesn't matter what you're doing.
Right,
If no matter what job you have lots of things you have to do.
right.
And I learned the block and tackling from years and years ago from a sales leader. And so I really had to get good about, okay, taking a block of time and scheduling.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm going to do XYZ. Didn't mean I was involved with anybody else.
Right.
I did that this morning. I was working on content for the show, and I was like, I have to block and tackle. I get distracted by emails. I
Hmm.
don't like a lot of emails in my box, and so I've had to train myself to stop looking at it.
Yeah. That was something I know in meetings, definitely when I was a presenter in meetings, one of the things that I would do was close my email down because I was presenting and I didn't want to be distracted. And also, we learned when we started sharing screens is that people's messages would pop up and you'd see an email came in from someone, and then people are viewing your email on the screen. So it's just a good habit to shut your email down when you're presenting. But then
Oh,
it
I have
keeps
a I
you
have a
focused.
really salacious story about a boss who did not turn down turn off his messaging,
I've
and he
been
was
caught in
called.
that space where I was like, I can't remember if I sent a message, like an email or an instant message for someone, and it was presented on the screen, and it was like, "Ah, Shut it down.
Oh, this was really bad because he was presenting in front of a bunch of executives.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you
and
have
I
to
had
be
been trying,
aware of what you're doing. You have to be aware.
well, he just had a bad habit of not turning off, of not putting his away message on, and
Hmm.
also not shutting down his messages.
Hmm.
And he had just gone up there, and it was, we were joking around about something, and so it popped up on there, and so it was quite embarrassing.
I
And
bet. I've been there. I know
I
what it's
won't go
like.
into details right now because,
Yeah.
you know, all of the players are still alive, but it was funny. And it was not professional, but it was, you know, it was a way that we released tension.
Yeah.
It wasn't tawdry in any
Right.
way, shape, or form. We were just making a joke about something.
Slanderous.
Kinda. Yeah, we were kind of making fun of what somebody was wearing.
Oh, that's
So
harsh.
so yeah. And
Mm.
it was not anything that we would anyways. So let's go back to distractions. So what other kind of distractions are a pet peeve and how do you deal with them?
Um, mm. Distractions for me, well, I know a huge distraction for people right now is their phones. So you're sitting at your desk and you hear a ding and you check a message and then you check Facebook and then you check LinkedIn, whatever. And then before you know it, 20 minutes has passed and you've been distracted away from productivity. Now, those are good signs for yourself that you need a break, that your brain was overwhelmed with whatever you were doing. So schedule your breaks
That's a
and
really good point. I hadn't
walk
thought of it that
away.
way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So when I start getting messages like from people that I know, frustrated, sending me messages saying this is what's happening and I'm super frustrated, my response to them always is go for a walk. Go outside, go walk around the building and burn the energy off because you'll end up spending it in a way that you don't intend to in the
Hmm.
office if you don't burn the energy in some way. You might blow up at somebody, you might respond to an email in the wrong way, you might, I don't know, miss a deadline for something if your mind is not focused on what you need to be doing because you're being distracted by something else, especially if it's a scenario that's happening in real time.
Right.
So, definitely schedule your breaks. That was something that I did not do for many, many years. I would even eat lunch at my desk, and that is not
I did
good.
too.
That's not a
I'm
good
making a
habit.
face, but I did too. It was just what
In
you
the
did.
more recent years, I stepped away, but like for many, many years, I just worked straight through, and that's not good for your body. They talked about recently about how sitting is the new smoking, because like I'm a professional sitter, I sit in this chair many hours out of the day. But schedule those things for yourself so that you don't get delayed by distractions. And I think many of us, I know it's a big thing for me. Right now, I probably have 30 tabs open on my screen. So, work on one thing at a time, even. Like you said, schedule time. I used to be in a very big habit of mine was to schedule in my calendar when I was going to work on a project. So like proposal for this would be from 10 to 12. Or like now in my day, I pick days to work on things. So Monday is an office day where we're recording, I'm working on LinkedIn. Wednesday is usually a day where I'm meeting with people. Um, Tuesdays and Thursdays are days that I'm usually out networking. So if you schedule those things, then you're less likely to be distracted by something because it's become a habit.
Well, and we talked about meetings too, and have agendas in them
Hmm.
because it becomes a distraction if
True.
you don't have an agenda and you don't know what your follow-ups are. So you don't know what your follow-ups are,
Yeah.
and you can't schedule anything.
Right.
So you have to have a clarity on what you have to do to get done. But in the block and tackling is a really good idea. Plus you get into, for me, I get into a cadence about things. I even had a great manager, and it was when I was in sales. I've had other jobs besides sales, and he would say, don't ever feel like if you get an inquiry from a client, that you have to answer it immediately, whether that's an email,
Right.
if you're involved in
Be
something
thoughtful.
else, right? If you're involved in something else, finish that up, but
Yeah.
don't be so quick. There's another reason why you don't do that. It's like you don't immediately satiate somebody, so you train them that they can just interrupt you.
Right.
But it's a lot easier with a lot of remote work of avoiding, the distractions
Oh yeah.
and the taking you off course, and the colleagues that would just show up to your desk and you're trying to finish something and you're too nice to tell them to go away.
Right.
Um,
Sometimes you need to put yourself in a place where you're not accessible.
yes,
So
that's a good idea.
I remember for several years we had year-end close end of April, and there was a 2-week time frame where all the sales had to be submitted and all of the data had to be analyzed and uploaded, and it was admin responsibility to get this done. And so what we would do for the last 10 days of the year is we would pick a conference room and 6 of us would sit in there, and it was the war room. You did not come in there unless you were talking to us about sales, because that's what we were doing, and we could not afford distractions, and we took ourselves out of the mix.
That's a really good point. And I used to have to do that too, working in a cubicle. I'd have to go find some quiet, if I was working on work that I had to concentrate on, I would have to take myself out of there. And I was lucky enough that they didn't call it hybrid work, but because of the nature of sometimes of what I was doing, like if I was running a channel or whatever, inevitably I'd have some work I'd have to do at night, that I could leave and go work at home or go find someplace and work. But that's a really good point. Um, is to and even try to put boundaries around your bosses,
Hmm.
right? Is to say, I'm going to go over here. I've got to get this done, and here's the reason why, and your colleagues,
Yeah.
etc. And that was a good point too, of you saying, hey, there was a group of us that had deliverables, so we just said for the last 10 days of whatever, we're going to go over here and do this.
Hmm.
Um, but I agree with you. And there's a statistic um, that we used to quote when I was in the data industry, about people's ability to concentrate has reduced to about 8 seconds,
Hmm.
which is less than a goldfish
Hmm.
can concentrate. And it's because of technology.
Right.
And, there's all kinds of studies out that talks about the kids, the people that were raised on technology and instant gratification,
Hmm.
and the fact that some of them can't even finish a book,
Hmm.
and so it's really difficult for them to be able to concentrate on tasks, to
Hmm.
be able to complete them.
Well, and
So,
you can't expect that everyone's going to be heads down for 8 hours straight.
no,
Minus coffee break,
because that's not
minus
productive
lunch.
either.
It's not realistic.
No,
It's not fair.
you burn out.
We're not machines. We're not AI. And that's the beauty of us. And so distractions so far in our discussion have been kind of negative driven, but they can be positive. Like you could be like, I need a distraction.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I can see what might be deemed as a distraction is maybe a happy hour or cake day in the office, or like we would have, I don't know, cultural diversity and inclusion would do.
Cup of coffee.
Yeah, even like those things are necessary. They bring you back,
Yeah.
they give you a break. If you've been heads down and you've been like hyper focused, where I can get like, this is getting done today, nothing's stopping me, I'm getting it done. You need to actually step away, and you need to be able to reset your brain and refresh and go for that walk around the building.
Yeah. No, because you do. It's kind of a reset, like you said. You have to have a little bit of a break. And I wouldn't call that necessarily a distraction. I would call that a planned refresher or something,
That's
because
true. That's true.
it's not really a distraction. And to your point, you can plan it in there. Like,
Mhm.
I remember when I first started working in an office, it was much more regimented. Like you needed to be at your desk by a certain time. You couldn't leave
Oh my
until
gosh,
after
I
a
remember
certain
those days.
time.
Yep.
You had even in an office situation, you had to say, "Oh, I'm taking my lunch here."
Hmm.
It was much more regimented that you had to make a choice about taking a break because to your point, if you sit there, I know some people that can keep working and working and working and working, but I burn out.
If nobody came to talk to me throughout the day, I would be in the computer all day long. I would be just running and running and running.
Yeah, I would have long meetings. Not long, no, I've actually gotten much better about keeping the meetings. It was funny. I was talking to one of my clients the other day. She and her husband own their business, and we have been working on kind of revising brand workshops and market strategy workshops and that kind of thing. And it's been really good because we have been able to, and because I work out of my house and I use part of my house as an office. She comes to my house and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I can get away," because in the office, it's everything is going on. Her kids are at home, so she can't work there. So we've kind of made this sort of a sanctuary of work where we can
Hmm.
just and we get a lot done that way. And her father, oh, that was a Freudian slip. Her husband had reached out to her because we were working last week. We were doing a follow-up, another intensive session, and her husband had called her and asked her about something, and he had to leave their office. It was later in the afternoon, and he's like, "I have to go pick up the kids." And she goes, "Yeah." Like it's normally her job.
Right,
Like he was lamenting that he had to
right.
like interrupt what he was doing to go pick up the kids. But um anyways, love to hear, more workplace distractions have definitely changed,
Yeah.
from when Heather and I, got involved in the workplace. But love to hear from people like how do you minimize distractions? There's got to be some etiquette around it, right? So we're going to talk about etiquette at some point.
Yeah.
How do you block and tackle your days? Like I
I think the
literally,
hardest thing for me, if someone could, I don't know, give some insight into what they did to quell this challenge when somebody would come and talk to me and they'd be standing at my cube, resting their head, telling me their woes. People came to me because I was a listener. So you could tell me your life story and I will let you stand there and talk to me. And so, how would people break away from those without feeling bad or feeling like they're insulting someone? I remember there were some times where, like, look, I'm like, I hate to interrupt you, but I really have to get this. This is done by today. I don't know that I ever did that. I would just stay late and be like, I'll just stay late and make sure that I get it done.
oh, you poor thing. Oh, you are a people pleaser. I would love to hear that too, but I have, especially with phone calls and people not being together, co-working areas. A really good technique that I've heard people do is okay, so you're having a conversation, whether it's you get an ad hoc phone call, right? And let's say this person needs something, is to say to them, "Hey," if they say, "Do you have 5 minutes?" Say, "Yeah, I have 5 minutes. I've got to be XYZ at such and such a time."
Hmm.
So give them the 5 minutes, look at the clock and say, "Hey, it's, you know, at 25 2, I've got to be doing XYZ."
Hmm.
And then,
Or set a time for a conversation later.
yeah, yeah. So I don't have tons of time now. Do you have 5 minutes later or whatever?
Yeah.
Um,
I've gotten good at that on messaging when people are like, "Can I call you?" Well, I'm about to go into a meeting. I can call you at 1 or I can call you at 5 on my way home. I've gotten okay with that, but when someone's standing right in front of me, that's where I can't get the courage up to be like, I'm busy. Let's schedule a time later.
yeah, I think, I think in today's world, I think people can be acceptable or more accepting of that, and It was harder when we were all in the office all the time. It was. And I did actually, that colleague I was telling you about, I actually got in trouble because I said something to her. I said, I at that point, because it wasn't work stuff that she was talking about, it was personal
Right,
stuff.
right.
And I said something to her and I kind of put a boundary up and she took offense to it
Mm.
and told on me. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like,
Yeah,
you
but you're
know,
supposed to set boundaries. Like just because someone feels like they're taking offense to having a limiting position, um, it shouldn't be something that you should get in trouble for, in my opinion.
well, I did. I got in trouble for it because I think I said something about the fact I've got to finish something. I don't have time for this personal conversation right now.
I think that's acceptable.
No, I got in trouble for it. She was a troublemaker.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. I would never do it. I would never be able to do that myself. I would never be able to like get myself to say that. But I give you
Well, I
props
don't remember
for
how I
laying a
said it,
boundary.
but I created a boundary and because it was getting too excessive
Right.
and she didn't have anybody else. I think what had happened is
Mm.
the department moved. And she and I were in one area, and the rest of the people were elsewhere.
Oh.
And her boss was traveling a lot, and so she didn't have. She would just naturally gravitate to me, and I was like, but I did. I got in trouble. I didn't get in trouble, like I wasn't written
You
up
got
or anything.
reprimanded.
Well, I was like, hey, you hurt her feelings, and I'm like, I'm sorry,
Did
it's
you have to
excessive.
apologize to her?
No, well, what I said wasn't offensive. She was
Okay.
offended because I was
Right.
putting up boundaries and I
Right.
had to. So I don't remember having to apologize per se. I think I went over there at some point and I said, "Listen, I apologize that you were hurt, but I've got all these things that are due. I've got these things I got to do and I just don't have time."
But
Yeah.
I think we've
So
covered a lot of bases um about distractions, how to limit distractions or how to recognize distractions. And again, like I said, they're not all necessarily bad to be distracted. It's just a matter of managing your time and other people's expectations, I think.
yeah, and those of us that are ADD, we have coping mechanisms that we had to learn. And sometimes to Heather's point, um, scheduling in breaks actually helps you sort of reset
Hmm.
and refocus. And then you can go back and focus some more. But block and tackling your calendar, being able to kindly set boundaries with people that are trying to interrupt you, even clients. Um, we talked about meetings before, excessive meetings. Um, but I found that scheduling things and then having a goal to finish things
Hmm.
is something, a task, by a certain time, if it was realistic, was also helpful.
Yeah,
So
and I can't remember. We've talked about this for a while now, but going back, did we start with the quote from Office Space where he's like, I bet I get a good 15 minutes of work done in a given week.
that's that quote is from a different angle. He was underutilized. And they had too many onerous reporting requirements and
Uh,
ridiculous meetings and talk about distractions.
oh my
His
goodness.
boss was always leaning over his cube with that
Yeah.
coffee
And
cup.
he had 8 bosses.
Yeah, that's a distraction.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh,
Well, write into us so that we can highlight your experiences and learn from experts out in the field beyond us. Mondaysunfiltered@gmail.com is where we're receiving emails right now. And until then,
stay unfiltered.
we'll see you next time.
That's it for this episode of Mondays Unfiltered. If something today made you laugh, think, cringe, or finally question the workplace norms you've been conditioned to accept, good. That's where change begins. If you enjoyed the conversation, hit subscribe, share the episode with someone who deserves a better Monday, and help us push the movement towards healthier, more human workplaces. And we want to hear your stories, the surprises, the successes, the dysfunction, the burnout, the breakthroughs. Just send them our way. Your experience might shape a future episode. And remember, we can do better, we can be better, and we don't have to tolerate BS just because it feels familiar. Until next week, stay curious, stay courageous, and stay unfiltered.